Okay, so right now I'm going to do a look at the Sticky Bomb and a Tactician, well, Tactician 4-piece, Sticky Bomb one-shot build. Something that a lot of people have asked me to do. I hate this style of gameplay. I hate this pathway of, PvP. However, I will cover it because people ask me to. Now, I don't actually have any concrete gameplay footage of this, even though I did test this, and a huge shout out to Doug V and A1 for both helping me, put this together and letting me test chain reaction on them, letting me test, how much damage it does. Unfortunately, I wasn't actually recording. I thought I was recording that entire time, and I wasn't, so I don't have the footage to show you in this video. However, I did test this with all the different mechanics, with chain reaction proccing, with full Tactician stacks, everything, and it sucks, all right? It's horrible. Well, it's not horrible. Doug V was actually one of the ones saying it's not horrible. It's playing how it was intended to play. Now, the first thing we need to do is look at the 4-piece tac bonus and how it's changed, okay? It's not the same. The 2-piece is 4,000 skill power, which is just not competitive anymore, considering how much skill power is actually, goes into an actual support, electronics build now. Skill haste is good, very, very good. I like that still. And then the 4-piece bonus, every bullet your group hits enemies with, adds 0.2% skill power to you for a max of 30%. Now, this is actually kind of buggy. When you're stacking it by yourself, sometimes it just bugs out and resets well within the 10-second period. But then the bonus disappears after 10 seconds of not being updated or after 10 seconds at full power. Now, here's the thing about this. This completely eliminates solo Tactician builds or solo one-shot Sticky Bomb builds. They're gone. Because 0.2% is not much. Even using a MP7 with the maxed out RPM I could find, I could not stack that fast enough. It took me so long to stack to an efficient level that it was no longer competitive. This is required to be in a group setting. And if I'm wrong about that, if you find a way to make this work from a solo play standpoint, and you can actually one-shot groups of players with a Tactician build, please let me know and please link me to that video because I'd be interested to see it. However, solo play is not viable with this anymore. You need 4 people shooting bullets at all times, and then you need to, when it hits full power, you need to start using your skills. You need to wait until it hits full power, and then within that 10-second period, you need to fire your Sticky Bomb or use your pulse or all these different things. So it's really about timing and supporting your team in an effective way. And there is a way that this can be used. A really professional player, someone that's really got their timing down, really got their skills, you can land them when you need to, where you need to, is going to have really good results from this in a support role. It's really, really cool. However, solo play, one-shot Sticky Bomb, no longer viable. Now, I'll talk about all my gear, why I'm using it. I'll talk about the guns and why I'm using them, and then my skill power really quickly. Then my skills, my talents, and I don't actually have any gameplay, like I said, but I'll talk about exactly what happened in the gameplay. So the first is the chest piece, health and health on kill. That's not great. I would prefer armor because you need to be more tanky with this build. You want to be able to survive while you're stacking up your bonus and while your teammates are stacking up the bonus for you. Health and health on kill, not that great. I like health on kill a lot, but health I would prefer to be armor because you can roll a lot of armor on chest pieces. Now, the mask, I do have EDR. That's in case I hit myself with my Sticky Bomb. However, I would also prefer health on kill. Even though I'm not going to be the one getting the killing blow on targets very often, it's still easy to melt enemies. Even with the low damage, 2,442 firearms, secondary DPS of 145,000, with an MP7 that doesn't have anything good on it, I can still kill purple enemies. I can still kill the red enemies for sure that are in the dark zone, proc health on kill, start to stack up my Tactician bonus myself with my high RPM gun. Moving on to my pads, I finally do have armor on those. Enemy armor damage is really great to have as a minor attribute. These are electronics pads. As you can see, I've spec'd into stamina and electronics almost exclusively. I've ignored firearms completely. You can see I have an electronics, stamina, and then 3-stat holster. And that's how I have such low firearms and such high electronics. Now moving on to my backpack, I have skill power on it for maxed out skill power, another electronics piece. I have one mod that's firearms that would much better be served as electronics, considering the new scaling on electronics is 30-1 instead of 10-1. So electronics as a main stat is 3 times more effective now. This is a good backpack. It's okay. It gets the job done. Then I have electronics gloves with shotgun damage, critical hit chance, health on kill. I would prefer, a submachine gun damage or critical hit damage. Either way, that would boost my effectiveness by a tiny amount, but overall, it's not a huge deal. And then my holster has armor. That's what you want to roll on a holster. And it has a good electronics roll, which is, key as well. So moving on to my guns, in my main slot, this has a really low RPM of 600, but the third skill is determined, so killing a target reduces skill cooldowns by 7.5%. With the new skill uptime, which is much lower than it was before because triage spam is gone, and heal spam is gone, and you can't multi-proc the heal and multi-proc triage, this is really good to have. Some sort of skill cooldown reduction is great to have. Then I have in my secondary super high RPM gun. It's up at 996, I believe, once you add in the 46, which allows me to then, you know, spam shots and get the Tactician proc bonuses, which is really cool. And I'll be using that most of the time. Moving on to my skills, of course I'm going to be using Sticky Bomb with the BFB mod. Now, as you can see, I am over the 250 previous hard cap from 1.3. Skills no longer have hard caps, okay? You can go as high as you want, provided you get enough stats to do so, but that should not alarm anyone. That doesn't mean that I'm going to go around one-shotting everything. What that means is that skills scale differently now. A lot of them scale lower than they used to, so it's more difficult to reach these high numbers, and they have diminishing returns. So at a certain point, your skill power isn't going to help the skill as much as it used to. That's my honest impression. Now, if I'm wrong about that, again, please correct me in the comments below. It's probably best to use the what's it called? Proximity fuse. It's probably best to use proximity fuse with this build if you can max it out, but BFB again has a large chunk of damage and has the bleed effect, but the larger radius right here, as you can see, 4.5 meters to 6.25, that's a big difference. It's almost a 50% increase, you know, explosion radius. That helps a lot with chain reaction. And then the cooldown, 49 versus 57 is good as well. But for my cases, I was using BFB. I don't have the footage to show you, unfortunately. And then, you know, I was using a personal heal that does a lot of health. So 162,000 self heal. That means 0 to 100 every time I heal, which is really good. You have a really effective heal. If you were to switch over to Defibrillator, you can heal your teammates for that much. So this is a support build in essence, and it functions the way it was intended to. Now, moving on to my talents, I have on the move again when I do get a killing blow. That's really effective. I have precision because I'm not going to be running pulse, and I want to be able to still pulse targets for the base, you know, pulse, critical hit chance, and critical hit damage. And then I have chain reaction. That's essential to this build because the 40% on top of the 289,000 that I have is going to be a significant chunk, and that's what's going to allow me to get closer to maybe that one-shot mechanic. And then I have strike back to reduce skill cooldowns. Again, with the new skill rotation and the new skill uptime, it's important to have cooldown reduction wherever possible. Now, moving on to my character sheet, I'll show you some things really quickly. I have 124,000 stamina, but I have very low armor. My skill power is, you know, my electronics is very high, increases skill power by 147,000, and the rest I get from major attributes. And again, electronics is 3 times more effective now. Weapon damage is low, critical hit chance is low, critical hit damage, headshot damage, that's not really where all the benefits of the build are. Enemy armor damage is good, 24% health on kill, that's good. Survivability, I have low mitigation, very low armor. That would need to be up-tuned significantly for this to work as a one-shot build and a Tactician in the traditional sense, and survive enemy players shooting at me, but it doesn't. So now to talk about exactly what happened, I'll go out into the dark zone and I'll talk in passing about it, but I don't think I'm not gonna be able to demonstrate again. When you fire your sticky bomb, it's a small radius, as you can see here, and you need to fire it directly within the 30% Tactician bonus, otherwise it's not going to work very well. Even when I proc chain reaction, I was still unable to kill targets, even with full health and no overshield whatsoever. I was not able to one-shot because organically people are building in EDR into their builds in one form or another somewhere, and even then, you know, the sticky bomb for some reason just doesn't do as much damage as it used to. If I detonate it on myself, I deal a significant portion of damage to myself, and if I were to detonate that inside chain reaction on myself without running two-piece final measure, which I am not, as you can see, I showed you before, I have an alpha bridge, you know, set of gloves, and then a holster of a different, you know, gear set spec as well, I would kill myself. So this is something that's, you know, the meta has shifted away. There is no more one-shot Tactician, you know, sticky bomb build running around with hundreds of thousands of toughness, able to destroy people in their path. There's a very specific window, and if you are solo, you will either lose the bonus from not finding an enemy to shoot, or lose the bonus because the 10 seconds at max efficiency are up. It's very difficult to time your 30% skill power bonus from Tactician properly so that you can then kill a player with it, because the only way to actually one-shot, in my experience with this particular build that I have, that's not quite min-max, but still, this is a very standard setup that a lot of players would be running, and previously they could put this together and then one-shot people. That doesn't work anymore. You'll have to have your timing on point, and the only way to actually one-shot someone is to proc both chain reaction and have the 30% from Tactician stacked up at the exact same time. If you do not have that, you will not be able to one-shot. Now, skill power, don't be alarmed when you see this number. This is a different scaling number. This isn't something like 1.3 where, you know, 30, 40,000 skill power was average. This is a skill power build. This is low, a little bit low for a skill power build. In fact, up near 200 is ideal where you want to be if you're going for pure skill power, pure support. But even then, you're not going to be one-shotting people. If you do, it's because you had good timing, it's because you were quick on the sticks, and it's because you deserve to get that one shot. It's not some kind of generic fire it down, kill everyone there, and troll the dark zone. It doesn't work anymore, and I'm delighted to say that it doesn't work anymore. However, the door is open for some great builds and some great timing. People can still do some pretty impressive stuff, and they can, you know, feel accomplished when they do. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm really sorry I didn't have the gameplay. Again, big shout out to A1 and Doug V for helping me test this in its entirety. I don't actually have the footage, but they were really cooperative and helped me get the numbers to be able to show this build and to comfortably say to you guys, there's no more one-shot Tactician builds ever again. So they're gone. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, please check out the links below. And as always, guys, have a nice night.